Yeah, obviously Sunday was a tough day. Get in and try to go through that film, offense, defense, special teams. They needed to hear what they needed to hear. A lot of positive feedback afterwards. We kind of took the first two-thirds of the day when we were together. They had a lot of different things beforehand with some lifts and soft tissue, different things like that. But then we get down to the meat and potatoes of special teams film, and then I brought them all together, had some words for them then about what we needed to endure the next hour and a half of film. Got done with that, brought them back in, talked about where we're going, where we're at, where we're going. Obviously with Alabama on the agenda, and coming back after a momentum swing that we witnessed on Saturday that we weren't able to just really dig back out of. Talked about that and the necessity to move forward. So it's going to be relying on our leaders, the guys that have been here, done that, guys that have been through some trials and tribulations to kind of step it up, and I think that'll happen. You know, from an injury standpoint, obviously the biggest one with Austin not being able to return to play, still in an evaluation process with him. Could be returned as early as today, tomorrow. Don't really know anything until we get into a few more results. I thought Cole did a nice job of going in there and doing some things. Thought the guys rallied around him, even though the game was kind of at that point out of question. But we did several things to try and get the guys involved with that, and it was a positive response. I think our defensive guys, when you give up 21 points without even being on the field, they could have had a chance to go south and stayed very, very positive. So I like the attitude, the demeanor. Nothing negative after the game or up till where we are right now. So I think the guys will turn the page, prepare for the #1 team in the country, and a chance to go on the road, a great opportunity to see how your response is. The other injury, Johnny Gibson. Johnny's been recovering very, very well. I think he's got a chance to practice tomorrow, if not Wednesday. So we'll continue to work and massage that. And then really, you know, we had some new guys show up. Some of the older guys, you know, you got to look at a guy like Scuda now. This is, I believe, his third or fourth time with multiple, with over 10 tackles. He's a guy that's doing a pretty good job. I see guys like Santos Ramirez, who's really just grown from a year ago to play the way he is. Andre Tolliver, I think Cameron Curl, even though he's getting tested so many different times. I see it's not just that he's a freshman corner. I think it's that Andre's playing well across the field that they always go to him. And I competed and battled his tail off. I didn't totally agree. I sent that play in with the DPI just because I want to see exactly what we can tell him to play better if that is a foul. So I think the kid's competing and battling. I like where we're at. Offensively, we got to go back to what we know how to do. When we're not running the ball effectively, we don't have success in any phase, and we got to be able to do that with consistency. You look at our scoring drive, and we just went boom, 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 boom down the field with plays that we tried later on in a game and didn't have the success, and it wasn't anything different other than the execution. So it's hard to finding answers when the first half, you know, obviously they have a huge momentum swing. When we got the second play of game, we fumbled, but our defensive guys stood, made them make the field goal. We exchanged field goals, hit a 48-yarder. I like where we're going. Exchange touchdowns. You go back and forth really through the first half, and that drive at the end of the half again. It just to overcome that, not to let obviously the situation happen, but our response after that's got to change. So. We'll work as diligently as we can on that and go forward. So with that, open up for questions. No, yeah, it's nothing with the head at all. Obviously, he got hit and rung up on that one play pretty good, but there wasn't anything to this point of anything other than a concussion.
Bret, I think the worst or the lowest win total you had in the time of this go was 7 wins. Right now, you're facing the possibility of that or lower to 4 times in 5 years here now. Have you ever, has doubt ever crept into you at all, or how have you definitely doubt previewing about that? It just may or may not work here?
It's a great question. Great stats to provide your answer. I think the greatest thing is I'm in control of me, and I remember back, it was brought to my attention by a good buddy a couple weeks ago that I was a GA at the University of Iowa, and I was a GA, and we were going through a tough time, and I was like, I just broke. I was mentally exhausted, taxed, because I really didn't have any control other than I was a GA in charge of a scout team and doing different things, and I made reference to my buddy at the time. I couldn't wait to be in a guy in control, and that's where I'm at. So really 2 different scenarios. You can take numbers to build up any case you want, but I took over a winning program and took it to an even higher level to go to 3 straight championships. I came here to a 3-9 program, went 3-9. We've been on a steady ship trying to build this thing up. We're going to be at the highest win totals a year ago. Lost 2 games at the end of the year that were very frustrating and haven't been able to get on track yet. We battled a lot with our injuries and with new players and new faces this year that we haven't got over the hump, but there's no doubt in my mind that we'll get it to where it needs to be. I don't really worry about totals till the end of the year. I think it's a great measurement at the end of the year, but right now, all you worry about the game in front of you.
Talk to Jeff long at all in recent weeks about the progress and state of the program?
Nope. Not any more than we used to. I mean, we always talk every week. We always talk about where we're at, but not anything different.
Bret, the fans I talked to Sunday they talked about hope. What's the hope for turning it around this year?
Absolutely. I think the good news is we have good kids who haven't shown any bad signs of losing that, what you're talking about, any lack of effort, any lack of discipline, any infighting, anybody going at one another. It's more of a message of unity and persevering. I think, again, like I said, I thought a big moment for me was when I looked at the film on Sunday, and you see a group, especially defensive guys, because there are some guys that I was looking at to see how they held their position. You lose 21 points without being on the field. That's a very frustrating thing, and there wasn't that. Those guys played to play. They were all on just a simple thing, getting guys out on the field for the PAT. It sounds silly, but it's a really, really big mark of character. And the fact that those guys competed, the way their offensive guys rallied when Cole got in there, I think is a very good sign as well.
Outside of injury, is there any scenario where Cole is a better fit right now for this team quarterback than Austin?
I think probably a great response is Cole, right? I mean, Cole said if Austin can go, he's our quarterback. I think that's a great indicator of a guy being in the right frame of mind. Obviously, Austin, I think, was affected by not just the last play that he was in there, but I think he was a guy that was trying to do everything he can and needed relief, and that was a way to get it to him in the end. I thought another great indicator for us was just the way our guys responded and obviously comforted Austin, but also the way that they switched gears right into Cole and got behind him was pretty cool.
It's hard for us to put together what's happening when we're watching the ball and rush on the quarterback. Some of the plays Austin held on to the ball. Was it just good coverage? What did you see when you put the tape together?
A little bit of both. I think there was some great coverage, but also I think there's some that I think Austin probably the last phase, wish he had gotten rid of it, wish he had thrown it. There were some plays that not only was it on the receiver's fault, but also, I think it was frustrating for him. We had a couple drops of some plays that were delivered, and once that happens, then you begin to, have a quarterback might creep into his mind a little bit about where the ball's going, who it's going to. I know we were excited to get the ball. C.J. O'Grady, again, case in point, the second play is designed to go to him and ends up in a fumble, and that never really got out of that funk, for him. And he's a guy that had, even you guys, I think some of you had been experts and were deciding that he should get the ball a lot. So we tried to, and the results were not very good, So I think as coaches, we got to focus on what we know, what we see, and what we deliver, and the kids usually buy into it.
When you have a situation where the quarterbacks get hit a lot, and take a flash of stat, obviously nobody's been hit in the country in Austin. Is there a part where maybe it starts to affect you and a break might do him some good, or how does that
Affect me as a head coach or him?
No, him as a court, like where you say, man, he might need to just kind of sit back and take it in for a while.
I think Austin. I know Austin. I don't think that's in his repertoire. He is a guy that I've had several NFL guys, several analysts, guys that come in and do our game, talk about how he'll stare down a hit coming at him if he knows the ball is going to go out on time. So I think it's for normal quarterbacks or for somebody that doesn't embrace that, then I'd 100% agree with you. But if you're talking about Austin Allen, I don't think that even enters it. I do want him to be protected. My biggest concern last year there was a play that I thought was a critical play in the year when he got hit a little bit late, a little bit low, and then this year he's had 2 plays now where he's been hit and they've thrown the flag away after the play, and it gets frustrating to think that your quarterback shouldn't be protected better than that.
Do you worry about him at all, just mentally? It kind
I worry.
of too much because of that stuff
When you're a quarterback and you want to have success, and you're a guy that's been waiting in the wings for 5 years, well, obviously you started last year, but you know what I mean. As a guy that grew up in this community, there's nobody that's got more history or more firsthand experience in our program than Austin and his father. So I think it means a lot to him, and it's disappointing when things aren't going right, for sure.
Yeah, A&M gave Alabama a fairly tough game.
Yeah.
Saban was kind of ranting after the game, as he's wanted to do sometimes. I mean, you feel like, wow, I mean, this is a tough time to plan, because now Saban's going to get everybody's grill all week, as opposed to them beating somebody 55-3 again or something.
I don't think I quite follow, but I mean, I think our team is wired different from the outside world. So I think the part that whether they're coming off a tight game or a big game really doesn't matter. We got to play the game at hand. I get what you're saying about Nick. I mean, but that's his emotions.
I guess what I meant was it's a tough enough challenge playing them when they're coming off a tough loss.
Well, you remember we played A&M to.
When they're coming off a close win, is that even tougher? Because they'll be more on the alert.
Yeah, I don't think I can control Alabama's mental psyche, but what I think is positive is, a team that we took to overtime played very, very well against them. So we went to overtime and lost against A&M. Wish we could have had it back. Wish we could have won it, but that should give them a better indication of what they can do.
Brett, I think we last year expected some problems on the offensive line with numbers and transition and stuff, but does it seem like it's a lot of the same stuff this year? What do you think about the job that Curtis done?
I think twofold. First, really the only thing that changed on the offensive line from a year ago was obviously the departure of Skip. And Skip was a guy that had been here 4 years, actually played every position other than center. Felt good about where our guys were coming in depth-wise. Obviously, we would like guys to play better at certain times, but Yelda's an improvement. Froholt and Frank have been playing pretty steady football. Colton does some things very, very well. Johnny Gibson has been obviously a nice continued surprise from when we got him to where we are today. I think Paul Ramirez has battled through some injuries, been a little bit better here as of late, and that's why he's getting the opportunity he has. So, yeah, it gets frustrating, but I think, again, there's some guys that we recruited 3-4 years ago that just haven't developed into what we want them to be, and we're going to give them some guys some shots. I mean, Brian Wallace is a guy last week. We have spent more time coaching Brian Wallace than anybody in our program to try and I think he's going to take advantage of it. He's got a great attitude, great mentality, and moving forward. If that's the case for Saturday, and him and Paul have continued to work. Dalton Wagner is another true freshman that, right till he got injured was a guy we were talking about playing. So there's a lot of different roles, but I wish the only regret I had was probably 4 years ago, if I would have signed 2 more guys in each class, just because the numbers that we had used didn't give us the depth that we need now, especially when some guys early departed.
Do you think it's more of a personnel deal than coaching deal there?
I'm not going to make it that easy for you to say that, but I think obviously that a coach is only going to be allowed to coach to the level of what his personnel is, and if we had a couple more guys depth that could have matured and been in a position to play right now. But I like the guy's attitude. Guy like Zach Rogers, Jake Rollerson, Paul Ramirez, obviously, who already came out of nothing. Those guys are battling and getting better every day. And if they were the best opportunity for us to be in there, they would be in there.
Brett, do you think it's physical strength, experience?
I think the SEC caliber of what you face, the size and the athleticism is been probably the ability to strain and maintain for 4 quarters against quality SEC opponents have been an issue.
Just coming off the game you had and Alabama's success, how do you convince your team you're going to win this game?
It's not the first time we've seen these kind of situations. I think when we our first couple wins here, the odds were decidedly against us in several of those situations, and we always kind of poked fun of it afterwards. So it's not the first time they've seen this number or this much of a percentage of an odd against them by the experts. So the good news is every game is a chance for you to play your best, and that's what we're going to try to do on Saturday.
What's your take on Alabama? Do they look pretty much like they always do?
Yeah, I think defensively, obviously, they're multiple in what they do. They got good guys on the back end. They're very, very deep up front, which allows them to play at a different level. Offensively, their quarterback has made improvements from a year ago. And they're probably going a little bit more tempo. And they got, compared to a year ago, they have a huge number of different formations that allow, obviously, each game a little bit more game planning, and then they do it and they're much more tempo oriented now. So that's a little bit of a change up offensively that's pretty glaring.
You talked about Johnny earlier. Is he maybe doubtful for this week?
Johnny Gibson?
Yeah, Johnny Gibson.
No, he looked great yesterday. We didn't practice yesterday. We just went through the weight room stuff and then the film. But tomorrow will be our first day out there, and if he can't go Tuesday, I think he's going to be able to go by Wednesday. So Johnny's a pretty tough kid, and got rolled up over there, and I know it hurts him not to be out there. But he's really turned into a very, very good player. Especially, I think he plays better at that guard position than he does at tackle.
Let's talk about the line. How do Yelda play the other in South Carolina? How's he played this year?
Yelda?
Yeah.
South Carolina wasn't his best game, but he's made steady improvement. He's a guy that, again, he's a second-year starter, really second year playing O-line. He's strong, physical. Guys in this league at times can make you look silly if you don't get your edge right or if you aren't quite firm in your pass pro. But he's a guy that continues to get better. Great soul, great working soul, developing into a really good player.
Fred, when you look at Alabama, and everybody says there's a gap in them and everybody else in the SEC now. Maybe it's nationally too, I don't know. What do you see as their
Depth. I mean, they have, for instance, both their tailbacks are guys that can take the play and make it look, just like a normal play. I look at the A&M game. I believe it was third or fourth play from the game, and they have a 3 technique that kind of just hops out of his hole, and all of a sudden there's an open A or B gap, whichever it was, and all of a sudden he's in the end zone. And the ability for those guys to change the play, obviously with Ridley and the guys on the outside. They have a very good tight end, Hale Henches, but also a guy behind him that's a really good receiving tight end, probably better than that combo than they had even a year ago, and that guy went in the first round. So I think the ability to reload every year with quality players, so that the evolution of if you lose a few guys to the NFL or lose a few guys to graduation, there isn't this huge fall off to get that next guy ready to play and get him in that. That's probably the biggest thing I see in 5 years in the league and preparing for these guys.
If Austin banged up, you kind of increase some reps of Ty's story in case he needs to be.
Ty's, obviously with the package that we've been working with Cole, Ty has been getting reps all along. The good news about Ty's very similar in the fact that to Austin, he understands the game. I mean, he gets football. He knows mentally where the ball is supposed to go. He knows our offense, and Cole does as well. But it's kind of a different offense when Cole had been there with that package we've been working with him. But Cole can work our offense at any time. I think the biggest thing when whoever's in there at quarterback, our offense is to assemble and look like the offense that we know that we want to be out there and what we can be good at, and kind of work the packages off that. I think. The other fact, we had a couple guys carry the ball that can be a changeup for us. T.J. Hammonds, chasing at Wildcat quarterback. It just kind of the tail of the tape last week. We were excited. We had got T.J. involved in quite a few different plays, and he gets his foot stepped on at basically the last 2 or 3 plays of practice on Wednesday, and we didn't even know if he's going to be ready for the game. So it's just one of those things like. Seems like everything we go, there seems to be a little counterpunch we got to deal with.
You're dealing with turnovers, and that was
huge.
Issue.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of the basic of your coaching philosophy.
Yeah.
What do you do to correct that?
Well, 3 of them were the resultant scores. I mean, it's one thing to put the ball on the ground, but when you throw an interception, it goes for a touchdown. When you and again, the hit that Austin got from behind, it wasn't like it was a free blitzer. He just worked himself free gradually around the edge, got the tomahawk on the back of the arm, and the ball comes out, 7 going the other way. And then Cole, I think, was obviously, I don't want it to happen, but it's a teaching moment that was probably good that it happened in the way that it did, rather than in the first quarter of the first game that he ever gets to start, or when it's live bullets coming at him. So those are things that just you can't overcome those situations in this league. Those are the game changers, and that was the difference in the third quarter, which swung that game the other way.
Brett, you mentioned you guys struggle if you can't get the running game going. You try to start doing things more creative, or just stick to what you know?
Well, I think there's always been creativity. Dan does a nice job of changing them up week to week, whether we're bringing wham plays, or we're bringing around the end, or bringing some perimeter plays, whether we're running jet sweeps, which running back's getting the ball. I think there's a variety of creativity is used, but on the same account, when a 5 technique needs to get blocked, he needs to get blocked. I don't care what the play is. You got to block them up in certain parameters and be able to, if you want to get the edge, you got to be able to get the edge and maintain it. Sos? You know, Sos has been a pretty consistent guy. I think a lot more consistent than he was a year ago. I think he takes it to heart. Again, a guy that has got a lot of abilities. We actually changed up with him last week. I'm sure you noticed he played a little bit of nose in passing game situations and did very, very well in that regards. Brought in some different guys in the pass rush scenarios. We brought some pressure last week that worked out pretty well for us. Defensively, you know, you lose a game by, what did we lose, 25 points, right? And whatever it was 25, 26. 21 of them was when you weren't even on the field. It's you don't want to find sympathy. You're not trying to find excuses, but it's, if you can eliminate that mistake, it makes it that much easier for your defense to say, okay, this is where we're at and what we need to do. So they've held the rope. They got to get better. The one pass play down the middle with 81 obviously can happen. It was a mistake by a half player that is a basic rule that we can't allow that guy to cross our face. The play at the end of the half, we can't allow them to, you know, bring the ball down the field, even though there's a short amount of time. We got to stay true to what we want to be in and defensively, and, you know, pressure that quarterback, make him make decisions, and hopefully don't find yourself in the position we did right before the half.
I did want to ask you about overall the pressure brought.
Yeah.
Some positive, some.
Yeah, but overwhelmingly, statistically, it was very, very positive, you know, but obviously you can't spend the whole game, you know, running pressures, but we brought a lot more than we had and worked positively. You know, in retrospect, if you can apply that and bring those same type of results and control the ball offensively without giving up scores, good things will happen. I think that's what probably gets you, if anybody's asked what gives you up hope, is I told our guys on Sunday night, if I've ever been around a team that can change their path in a very short fashion, it's these guys right here, right now. It's not like they're a million miles away from, they've lost an overtime game, they lost a game against TCU that was right down to the wire, and now we had a third quarter that got completely out of control, and would have, could have, should have, I get it. Everybody's going to have commentary, I get it, but they really truly are a team that is not very far away from being where they need to be.
You know, it's Alabama recruited on the television too, and I don't know if it's a state kid, but, you know, Alabama, they get guys from all over. How big was that? You guys wouldn't have recruited that?
You know, on Alabama's roster, there's all kinds of kids that we take swings at. You know, I think 2 of their 3 top tight ends, we were toe for toe trying to get them in. A lot of times, I remember I recruited Perschbacher, their guard, their offensive lineman, quite a bit. Some of their defensive linemen. Scoota's here. You know, Scooter had an offer. So there's guys really on both rosters that can go either way. But we got to continue to find our guys with niche. And I think the more you can have on your roster that you battled out and beat them on, you're going to be better off for it. But every kid's a little bit different. Every scenario is a little bit different. I think we got to find kids that know and understand Arkansas and want to carry that chip.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.